The changes that have been announced would have meant Corbett's Cross couldn't have won the National Hunt Chase, Absurd couldn't have won the County Hurdle, I Know the Way You're Thinking couldn't have won the Kimmuir, Better Days Ahead wouldn't have been able to win the Martin Pipe. But there's no change to fix a situation like Langer Dan getting back into the Coral Cup off the exact same mark as a year before and winning it again.
The Final Furlong podcast is proudly brought to you by Jeff Banks Bet. Get up to £500 refunded as real money for new Jeff Banks online accounts after your first month of betting. Use promo code FFP500 at jeffbanks.bet. And by BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Our listeners get 10% off your first month. So give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/FURLONG.
I think that's all we can do, or else the YouTube algorithm will kick in and stop us from stealing David Bowie's content. To the Cheltenham Festival upcoming, and I'm delighted to be joined, the main man behind this as well, Regional Head of Racing, Southwest and Clerk of the Course, Jon Pullin. Jon, thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Thanks, Emmet. Pleasure to be on.
Multiple changes. One of them was already leaked, which I'm sure you were absolutely thrilled about not so long ago. The 2 mile 4 Turners, the Golden Miller, has been changed to a limited novice handicap chase. This is a move I very much approve of, by the way. But what was the thinking behind it?
Yeah, so we've conducted the review straight away after this year's festival. We knew we probably needed to take a more in-depth look at the race program, just to try and identify areas for improvement. And I think when you look at the novice chase division, current program of 3 grade 1s and the grade 2 national hunt chase, there just isn't the horse population to sustain that program as it currently stands. And so we felt that if we made the change to the 2.5 mile division, the hope is that we will see the graded horses take either the 2 mile Arkle route or the 3 mile Brown advisory route. And what we'll have is a competitive race at 2.5, and in leaving sort of no cap on rating for the 2.5, if you have got a real 2.5 mile specialist, they still could run at the festival and give weight away. But hopefully, we'll create a competitive race there and push the graded horses into the 2 other races.
Most people very much missed the days where it was just the Arkle and the Brown advisory as it is now, and would like to see that return, and that effectively does now. The point you've nailed there is we just don't have the horse population, and this is something that's been pointed out by a number of broadcasters for quite some time.
That's it. When you look at the numbers of horses competing in the novice chase division, but also the quality. When you look at end of year ratings, historically the 2.5 mile division is the weaker of the 3 divisions, and I think this change should hopefully see a positive impact on the graded races. And as you say, it's something that's been discussed previously, and some of these changes that we're making are as a result of a continuation of trends that we've seen in recent years.
The National Hunt Chase desperately needed a radical change as well. You've turned it into a 0 to 145 race. I'm slightly confused though as to why a race that had already been altered from a 4 mile chase to the 3 mile 5, it had been upgraded in terms of class, you're reverting that back, but you're taking away the amateur rider status of the race. And I know that one of the things you were saying yesterday is, well, they can still ride in the race. Technically, that's true, but it's not really true. What is the thinking behind removing the amateur rider status in that race?
The rider element of this change came once we'd reached the conclusion that it was appropriate to change the National Hunt Chase, evolve the race again. It's a race that's seen many changes over the years, particularly in the last sort of 15, 20 years. And once we'd concluded that, a 0 to 145 novice handicap was the route that we felt was the best opportunity to create a competitive race. When you look at that, the hope is obviously that we'll see an increase in field size. When you then look at the size of the riders that are eligible to ride with the rider requirements that are attached to the race, it's actually a very small pool of riders available. And so what we wanted to do was ensure that in making the change and trying to create this competitive race, that we'd opened up the rider element to ensure that we've got sufficient riders available to ride in the new race.
You're going to get a lot of criticism for that one, but I think it's the right thing to do, and there are other amateur rider races at Cheltenham. You needed to do something. For one, anyway, as a fan of the sport first, I very much approve of that. The Mare's Novice Hurdle, there's no longer going to be a penalty structure in that race. Every horse can run off level weights now.
That's correct. When we've looked at this race, and one of the objectives that we set out with at the start of the process was that we were very keen to recognise the impact that the festival has on the wider jump race season. And this is a change that probably has as much positive benefit to the season as it does to the festival race itself. We've seen horses campaigned in recent seasons to avoid getting a penalty for the Cheltenham Festival race.
Yeah.
And what we see is the best horses taking each other on throughout the season. And so we feel that by removing the penalty, we would hope to see that very much happen and see good horses, the good mares take each other on in the build up to the festival as well as the festival itself.
Was there ever a conversation there about the overall mares races, that you've got that big meeting in April and perhaps make that a mares day and have the grade ones there, but try and encourage the very best horses to be running against one another at Cheltenham, which is what the Cheltenham Festival is supposed to be about. And that's not what happened with Kuvega. It didn't happen for the first 2 years with Annie Power. To be fair, she did run on a stairs hurdle, but she was removed to a mares hurdle 1 year. Benny Didier and Honeysuckle, they were all missing those races. Was there any thought process at all about actually maybe these mares races are backfiring?
I wouldn't say backfiring. Consideration was given to all races. We have taken a proper review of all of the races. And I think with the Mares programme, we are very conscious of the success of the Mares programme as a whole over the last sort of 15 years. When you look at the number of mares in training now compared to 15 years ago, the number of quality mares that are in training now compared to 15 years ago, it's a huge positive story, and that's having a wider impact on jump racing as a whole as well. There's just a larger pool of horses competing because of this mares program, and we felt that the incentive of the mares races at the festival would still be needed to ensure that continues, and so therefore we did take a very good close look at both the Mares Hurdle and the Mares Chase, and decided that with the Mares Chase particularly, it's a relatively new race. It's had 4 runnings. Numerically, field size has been fairly strong, 8, 9, 11 across the 4 years. And we felt that the incentive of that Grade 2 chase was there. I think we have to accept that the really top end mares will probably never go chasing. And so the fact that we've got this Grade 2 there is a suitable incentive for good mares to make that next step. And with the Mares Hurdle itself, there several options were looked at. There was some talk of whether we tried to force the best mares into the Champion Hurdle through sort of an exclusion of Grade 1 winning mares not being allowed to take part in the Mares Hurdle itself. And when we looked at the data, and these decisions have been based largely on data as well, it actually rules out quite a number of mares from the previous runnings. Mares are winning Grade 1s elsewhere now. Yeah. And it also felt sort of counterintuitive as well to be saying to the connections of the best mare, potentially you can't run in the best mare's race. And I think also history shows that when you've got a very good mare, an Epitome to Honeysuckle, they do go down the Champion Hurdle route at an appropriate time for them. So I think that's what led us to the conclusion that at this stage, certainly we wouldn't make any change to the Mares Chase or Mares Hurdle. The changes to the cross country chase, this is something that's been talked about for quite a while, and Lizzie Kelly and I have been very vocal about it, changing it back to a handicap. Eddie O'Leary's not going to like this segment of the show, but this is also one I very much approve of. Was it something you feel you could have done sooner? As I mentioned, some of the changes we're making were on the back of trends that we'd seen in previous years. Yes, it was a race that we'd sort of been keeping an eye on, and I think and although we didn't run the race this year, when you saw the final declarations, it was highly likely that it was going to end up in a similar format to the previous previous years. And we feel that we very much want to attract those good horses, those Tiger Rolls, those Delta Works, those horses, some would argue they should be running in the Gold Cup. We don't believe they will, and this has been the route that they've chosen. And I think what we've tried to do in creating a limited handicap is still leave enough incentive for those horses to compete, but bring a few more horses sort of along and make it a bit more competitive. And hopefully that will be the result. You know, we do want to see those good horses taking part.
I think it's been already mentioned by a few people that actually if Tiger Roll had run in it as a handicap, it wouldn't have been a problem and he probably would have won. And obviously the Grand National was a handicap and that wasn't an issue for him either. So I'm not quite sure I buy into the argument, but I respect Eddie O'Leary immensely and very much respect his right to the opinion as well. The changes to novices in non-novice handicaps. So this is an alteration that happened before. You've extended it. It's gone from 3 to 4, and now you have to have had 5 runs over hurdles. It's 4 runs over fences. Why did that need to change?
We just, when you look at the handicap and the success rate of novices in the open handicaps, we just felt that there was an opportunity to sort of try and encourage the very good horses, you know, realistically graded horses, to run in the graded races. What we want to see is you know, competitive racing and the best horses taking the best on. And by making this change, we believe that we'll see graded horses, you know, in their novice season, instead of taking what could be deemed an easier route through an open handicap, go into the graded races and really make the handicaps themselves competitive, or even more competitive than they've been previously.
I'm not sure this needed to be done, to be honest. I understand why you did it after Stateman, then Absurd comes along. If I was very cynical, I could say the changes that have been announced would have meant Corbett's Cross couldn't have won the National Hunt Chase. Absurd couldn't have won the County Hurdle. I know the way you're thinking couldn't have won the Kinmure. Better Days Ahead wouldn't have been able to win the Martin Pipe. But there's no change to fix a situation like Langer Dan getting back into the Coral Cup off the exact same mark as a year before and winning it again. I'm not even sure how you would enforce such a change, but was there a discussion about something like that, trying to make sure that nothing like that can happen again?
Yeah, I think that's, you know, probably a bit of an exceptional case. And you know, we've looked at all races and tried to understand how we make these things, you know, make changes that can influence, you know, certain elements. And I think what we've done is try to address if you like, the unexposed novice running in open handicaps, and where you've got a really good one, hope that they take the graded route. You know, but some things are out of our control. We've addressed the things that we believe we can control, and this is one of the changes that we deem does that. Okay.
I think the phrase is improved for the application of cash. 10 to 1, 40 to 1, 40 to 1, 66 to 1. Oh, 13 to 2 and wins at 141. It's an interesting one. I'm not sure you needed to make the change for the handicaps, but I approve of every other change you've made. You've also made changes for the benefit, hopefully, of the consumer. The attendance was obviously dramatically down in 2024 in comparison at least to 2022, and that needs to be stemmed. It's all very well and good seeing people putting up photographs of them enjoying the sunshine in Spain, but there's nothing like being at Cheltenham, and we need to get people back there. So of all of the things that you've announced, the changes to the car park, very, very pleasing to hear that. Transportation to and from the racecourse is going to be a big help. The freezing the ticket prices, I think that's going to be something that will be very well received.
Yes, that's it. So, you know, there were sort of three elements really to the review. Race program obviously being one, and one that I was sort of more directly involved in. But the other two were very much about the customer experience here on the day and providing value. And in the research that we did, you know, throughout the summer and that's come through focus groups as well, the experience and value were very much the two elements that came through strongly from most people. And so the changes that we've made with freezing ticket prices, as you mentioned there, and sort of working with Venators to create a room to race package that allows people to book a ticket and a room at hopefully a more reasonable rate than has been paid before. They're all things that we hope, you know, will add value to the experience. The one thing that came through was, you know, people don't mind paying for an event such as this as long as they're getting value and the experience is. And I think we recognise that, you know, perhaps this year we didn't deliver as well as we could, and there was room for improvement. And hopefully these measures will, you know, go some way to addressing that.
I think the partnership with Venator is very, very welcome. They're good people and they offer great value for money, and I hope that that's something that's going to be very beneficial to the fan. I did say to you yesterday that you can stay for 4 nights, Monday to Friday actually, in a very nice hotel in Cheltenham for 380 quid. But the very next week of the Cheltenham Festival, it's 2,800. And I don't know how you fix that. I'm not even sure that you can. It's not like the Irish government can go to the hotel operators in our country and say, hey, just because Bruce Springsteen is coming doesn't mean you can increase your prices by 500%. But that is what happens in Dublin or Cork or any other city that there's a major concert. Has there been any attempt to try and broker something with those hotels just to try and offer better value for the fan?
Yes, meetings have taken place, directly after this year's festival to understand the position of the local hotels. And I think they, when they were being honest, recognized the fact that they weren't as full as they'd previously been, and probably needed to, take a review themselves of rates and see if there's anything positive that they can do going forward. And I think it's something that we're hopeful. It's out of our control, but we're hopeful that they will certainly play ball, going forward into next season.
Yeah, hopefully, because we need the fans. And I said this to you yesterday, we can talk about City of Troy all we want, and I'm so fascinated to see what's going to happen in the Breeders' Cup Classic, but jumps racing is king. And Royal Ascot might have been sold out for all 5 days, and well done to them, but they might be able to tell you, that crowd could tell you who won the Gold Cup, but how many of them could actually remember who won the Norfolk? The Cheltenham fan is a different kettle of fish entirely, and they need to be looked after. And I think that they feel like they've been forgotten about to a certain extent, that there's been this marketing push to try and get a different fan that doesn't exist. I think that's very much how they feel about the television coverage, that it's designed to get this fan that doesn't actually exist. Meanwhile, they're left sitting there for a sport that they love, that they spend a lot of money on, that they spend a lot of time on, and they're just not getting anything back for it. So do you feel the changes that you've announced will speak directly to those fans and make them feel like you are valued, we do need you, we hear you, and we want you back?
Absolutely. It's very much about engaging with the current fans. This process hasn't been about how do we get, tens of thousands of new people. Yes, we want new customers, new fans to engage in the festival and jump racing as a whole. But the changes are very much designed to speak to those that have been to the festival before, perhaps not had the experience that we would have liked or they would have liked, and certainly get them back, coming either for another day or another 2 days, and really building that atmosphere that we all know the festival can deliver. Final
question for you. How excited are you for the big one? Cheltenham Festival is fantastic. We all love it. But the open meeting, there's something very special about that. How are things coming along for the preparations, and how excited are you for it?
Yes, no, very well. We've had quite a bit of rain in the last sort of 3 or 4 days, which is welcome at this time.
We've needed that.
Providing it doesn't continue the whole way through to the 25th of October. But no, the course is in good shape. We did some, sort of usual end of season renovation on the track and did a couple of small drainage projects. And the track's recovered really, really well, benefiting from this rain that we've had recently. And no, we're in good shape and very much looking forward to starting again. And we're looking forward to being there. We'll be covering it on TalkSport 2 and hopefully be there in person as well. Jon, thank you so much for your time. The very best of luck with the new changes. I think they're very positive for the most part anyway. Not sure about the amateur riders, not sure about the handicap changes, but that aside, I think this is all very, very positive, and clearly you've been listening to the fans, and I hope that they're back in their droves. Brilliant. Thanks, Emmet. Thank you.
The Final Furlong podcast is proudly brought to you by Jeff Banks Bet. Get up to £500 refunded as real money for new Jeff Banks online accounts after your first month of betting. Use promo code FFP500 at jeffbanks.bet. And by BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Our listeners get 10% off your first month. So give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/FURLONG.